councils are risk averse, fair to say. So using the public person, you need to be accountable for everything that's done. Private sector can take more risks around that, but public sector, so that can sometimes have a real impact on the pace of change around that. But yeah, absolutely, the constant change is a good thing, and we're all used to it. And just looking within organisations now, if you've got a mobile phone and you've got an app, that's upgrading itself regularly. You're self-serving that change, and we're seeing a much more acceptance within organisations that perhaps previously something that was the IT services domain to upgrade everything. Actually now people are taking the chance to self-serve, and I'll choose when I want to upload the latest version of an app and things like that. So very much more around that whole sort of self-service going forwards. So I think there's definitely a move to make people more independent, and as councils are put under pressure for budget savings, more that they can move into the hands of the customer, then obviously that takes away the need to provide certain services. But it's about still people want to live their life and they need to receive those services. So it's looking at that balance around how can the next generation have much more control while still receiving the services they want. So perhaps the delivery model is certainly changing around that, about choice of when and how it happens rather than it being done to you. So definitely seeing lots of examples of that happening. But with any change, there's always different people. It would be so good if a change, and we think about everyone, it happens once and everyone accepts it in the same way. Change is different right across the piece, from not just generational changes, but people's opinions on things as well. So change management in this modern world is really, really important and mustn't be overlooked around what's the impact on the people. Because a small change to someone that you think, that's good, that's positive, to someone else can be a really negative change. So it's bearing that all in mind rather than just doing to. So hence the discussion around self-serve. You're starting to take a choice in when you do things rather than it being done to you. So definitely seeing more examples of that, and the whole self-service model online, go and serve yourself. Previously it was 9 to 5, now you can do things in the evening. From a process point of view, you need to be able to cope with that, because there's obviously not a person generally on the end of that transaction. So when we re-engineer our services, how do we bear those things in mind? So we're giving people much more of a choice. I certainly think Agile has really got a good place to play, and it's getting people to think around iterating services. Previously, it was about here's a design of a new service or a new system, and you'd start, and then 2 or 3 years later that project may finish. And with any change, life's changing so quickly, that 3 years, that's a lot of time so much more agile approach is encouraging the shorter timescales and keeping on top of things. And rather than worry about the big complete product, it's something that's iterated and built and can adapt much more flexibly as well. So the public procurement process is a really interesting dilemma, because as we get into an environment where change is happening quickly, you've got very established processes for procurement where public purses have been used, so it's really important that that money's decided how it's going to be spent effectively, and it has a real impact on that ability to make quick decisions. That's been looked at. You've got things like the government cloud now for providing services. I still personally think that's very much geared towards the larger organisations that have got a foothold in local government anyway. Smaller organisations, that's more of a challenge going forwards, but at least they've recognised that and they've set a model up that will help, hopefully, that going forwards. I personally feel that the involvement of a lot more smaller, agile organisations who haven't got the backdrop that they operate in, that they can be much more flexible. So anything to do to encourage that and benefit from that is going to help people, but it's probably going to take a little bit of time to get there. So that's the G-Cloud introduction of that, to make procurement much quicker was the goal. It's really interesting to see that that's a procurement process, the idea being that there's a catalogue of services and you go, I need that service, I can go and procure that tomorrow. Good theory. You still see most organisations still going through a protracted procurement process to make sure. So the goal of it should take a lot of the time out for organisations who want to be on that catalogue. I'm not convinced that's there yet in the concept of, to me as an organisation, that should reduce my time to sale, because I've done it once, everyone can reuse that. I don't see that happening at the moment, but the idea being the right one, just I think it needs iterating to get to a more perfect solution. You've got 20, 30-year-old systems that key services, adult social care, children's services, that actually have got lives at the end of them that are really, really important, and moving to a much more, a newer system can often be a real challenge because, rightly so, you shouldn't be putting anybody at risk. So you're trying to balance those all the time. Certain services, which perhaps have not got life and death on the end of them, statutory things, sometimes the law stops you from doing things, but definitely seeing people get more to a capability model. So rather than having vertical systems that have been there for a long time and all of them provide document management systems and they've all got their own case management system and all that, suddenly trying to change that into a much more, here's our capability of case management for the organisation, and we can all use that, and we just need the specifics for that service. But that is probably the biggest challenge for local authorities, is to change from the old siloed systems into much more of a horizontal capability model. But definitely with a number of organisations that we're working with at the moment, seeing that change happen, which is really encouraging.